good evening. This is Hound Dog Steve coming to you on the 10th of March, and this is a Saturday evening. Okay, so here it is. It is the WebBot crypto report for March, and Clif has outdone himself this time. There's some very interesting data here, and I would urge you all actually go to his website, Half Past Human, and actually purchase the whole thing. I am going to do a summary, which is just skimming across the surface, and there are a lot of coins here that I'm not going to give a report on. I'm just going to include Bitcoin, Ethereum and Litecoin. So it is $99 US, and that works out to about $130 Canadian. And of course, as Clif always mentions at the beginning of his report, and I will reiterate here, is that this is not financial advice. This is information gathered from bots that scour the internet for emotional linguistics. Okay, so you're urged to do your own due diligence and take this information for what it is. But interesting it is, and personally I found it to be actually incredibly accurate. So I would urge you again to purchase the entire report by Clif. Okay, so let's start, and in the metadata we have the 5 blues harmony is what Clif calls it. Now the first one is kind of interesting, and this is engage, enrage your face. And this is reactions to videos and photographs that are now flying around the internet, which will include love trolls and people seeking revenge. And of course, the revenge, you guessed it, would take place in trolling you and basically trashing anything that you do on the internet and so on and so forth. So this is a really interesting twist to the new, very public and very social media that we are now all engaging in. Okay, number 2 is blue lights at night in spring. It will be a phenomena in the Northern Hemisphere, and it will be described as staggering and incredible by people who actually see it. Number 3 is blue locks or placards, sets that include politicians and populations, so a sleepless night of demonstration, a kick-off to the American Cultural Revolution. The blue locks or placards are the temporal marker for the revolution, deep social unrest that could last for many years. And of course we can see a lot of that happening right now with the polarization of society, and so I think we can expect anything to happen. The 4th blue light is a blue light special, and this will be blue lights occurring in the ocean, from the deep ocean, and people on ships or on cruises will see these blue lights, and again the definitions will be staggering or incredible. And interesting enough, one little interesting comment on the report was that dolphins will not be connected with the blue light event. Okay, the 5th new blue is a turning over, as in a turning of coats or people changing sides. And there is a bunching of data in the political and science arena, and it will be a major theme throughout the year of people turning coats, whistleblowers, releasing of information, all of this kind of stuff. And a good temporal marker would be when you start seeing the word blue all over the place in descriptions and comments and news items and that kind of thing. March and April will usher in a sense of surprise. Now, not shock or trauma, continuing until August, and it will be as if it were a pleasant nudge from the universe. Part of that surprise will be new perceptions to cryptocurrencies that will benefit everyone. Also, that many celebrities of the crypto world will be elevated not just in status but in influence. As we move into March, opportunity and advancement will come suddenly and will affect crypto space. Remember, Clif said that not all cryptos will survive the hyperinflationary period, and so this will be as well a very volatile period and a shakedown period for cryptocurrencies. So some will do very well and others will not fare so well at all. Okay, so data suggests shockingly large numbers of people adopting cryptos in countries like Venezuela, Russia and Brazil. Now this is building into the second and third quarters, and then mania takes off. Now interestingly enough, the US and the EU are laggards in the adoption of cryptocurrencies, and Brazil will be a major nation acceptor. The words are incorruptible and blockchain. And we're going to see this a lot throughout the report, that people are realizing that the freedom from fraud and manipulation is a big boon. Okay, reversals. Equities will reverse and go down around the 25th of April, and cryptos will rise in value as people escape the hard-edged drop and panic sets in. Throughout the year there will be the rise of new political parties, cults and religions, and the breakup of other religions and institutions, due to callers or observers who will evidence to back their stories. So this sounds like there's going to be quite a revelation taking place during the course of 2018, as if 2017 didn't bring along with it enough revelations. There will be financial impact from religious structures breaking up. There will be much work for lawyers as the money pots come unglued and engage in unhinged behaviour. Now this unhinged behaviour could be assassinations or a sense of self-righteousness as banking irregularities and church management issues enter the public view. There will be a dredging up of the past, but of course as there are winners and losers, there will be a big boost to charity blockchains. Data sets about people leaving religions in the advent of healing machines. Now, there will be a fundamentalist backlash to these healing machines that will be spreading through the hospitals and doctors' offices in the Western world. And so fundamentalists will be attacking hospitals and doctors. A subset suggests that there will be a populist uprising from the public that will thwart these attacks and capture the terrorists, leading to their arrest. And of course this will push the healing technology further into the public eye and really kind of cement its place within society. And this is through March to September of this year. There will be an outing of a larger religion and a smaller religion, which is actually quite powerful, and due to the manner of allegations from fraud to allegations of sexual impropriety. Well, ain't that the truth? The outing of religion creeps into the religion of science, and a greater understanding of magnets will be released, along with disturbing financial divide in the scientific community. And I'm sure this will be around climate change, because we are now really seeing changes upon us, and more people are realizing that we're actually going into a cooling period and that the warming period has ended. The use of social media will continue unabated, but there will be a backlash against the leadership of social media for past and present sins. Now, would this be a censorship, do you think? Because the social media platforms today are taking it upon themselves to censor society from using particular words or thinking particular thoughts. And we will get into this a little further on, but this is all part of trying to induce a cultural shift via algorithm. Okay, so social media will be a part of recording, assisting in earthquake zones in such a way as to be labelled strategic by the deep state. Real earthquakes, especially in places that rarely get them, like the North and South Pole, a quake at the North Pole will provoke an expedition that will seem like an overreaction at the time, until it is leaked that there is something up there of interest, although we are not sure exactly what that is. And a new social order is being created from a fall of the old boys network. Something else we're going to see is weather warfare and winds that scrub the land and strange events in the skies and seas of the southern hemisphere. This is around the March equinox. Extreme freezing events both in northern and southern latitudes, and there is extensive crop damage. And we're certainly seeing that right now in France, Germany, and certainly in England, as those early green crops have been destroyed by the bombogenesis storm Emma that swept across the British Isles and into Europe. They had an early spring, and now heavy snows and cold have pretty much destroyed, and high winds in Holland have destroyed the greenhouse operations. So there is some really serious stuff going on. In the Midwest in America is underwater right now, and New Zealand is underwater right now. So there are some serious issues going on with the weather world. So be aware of that coming down the track. Celebrities who supported global warming will come out against global warming in a very public way, and this will be quite a shock to the group of people who are pushing the global warming narrative. From the end of May till the end of November, data shows successful relationships between cryptocurrencies. There will be awards, rewards, and accolades for new platforms that come out this summer. Words like heady, exalting, satisfying, and uplifting will be used. There will also be a questioning about the value we get from deep state activities compared to the cost, which is absolutely staggering. And I think one of the things that really sticks out in people's mind is the recent shooting down in Parkdale in Florida, where the FBI actually received 3 separate tip-offs that there was a serious issue with this young man, and they did not follow up on the information. And so I'm really thinking that, there are serious questions with the absolute value that we get from some of these huge investigative organizations which cost an awful lot of money and yet produce very little in the way of material results. The establishment control systems is quaking, so expect possibility of some false flags or skirmishes along military borders to try and provide a distraction to the public. And the upcoming elections in the Western republics will be notable for the resignations and step-downs and capitulations, with talk of the crumbling of the Bretton Woods system, which of course is the basis for our fiat debt-based money system. And this began in 1952-53 after the Second World War, when America got reserve currency status and it was locked into a gold standard. During March, April and May, there is a subset about brewing, not only about the use of brewing in scientific technologies, but also brewing of self-donated stem cells for use in self-healing with healing technologies and healing machines. Also the use of blockchain for medical records because of the anonymity and the registration of your stem cells. Now you see that word blockchain is creeping into many areas which I suspect, if you're like me, you didn't anticipate, where they might be of great assistance in the transportation and the elimination of duplication within a system. Okay, so the flow of all things crypto in March will be reaching and lurching into the public space, trying to gain acceptance until July. Also learning to work together, and a resolution of long-standing arguments will give a sense of pulling together within crypto space. And that is a good thing, because we really need to have basically new ideas coming on that increase our flexibility rather than being out and out competition. So competition should technically be working together to come up with the best product and partnering to get the best product, because the best product will in the end win the day of public support. There will be rapid adoption by countries in financial difficulty to escape fiat debt-based currency systems and the punishments that come along with them. And this will be, I'm sure, along with issuing a coin that you can buy as an investment into countries like Venezuela, and it will be put on the blockchain, and this is the way countries will start trying to finance themselves. It will be like an open source crowdfunding situation, and you will decide whether a country has got what it takes to make it or not some international bank. And along with the build out, there will be some volatility. Okay, so as we said, there will be some cryptos that do not make it, so expect some crashing events. So again, I remind you, do your due diligence. Personally, what I'm doing with cryptos, one of the things I do is I try and look at what they're about. Okay, and if they have something that looks like they could be of use to society or of use in a financial sense. Where you can see, for example, investing in a coin that covered medical records would be quite an investment, because that would certainly be a growth industry. Okay. There will also be distress and emotional tension around cryptos around this time, but this will be all to do with scams and scammers. So please do be very, very careful with your cryptocurrency. Use hard wallets wherever necessary. Protect your private key at all costs. And as I was told the other day, if you used a private key to use your Litecoin to claim your Litecoin cash, do not use that Litecoin account again, because that public key is now compromised. That private key is now compromised. Okay, so remember that. Don't use that Litecoin account again. Get a Litecoin wallet or something like that, something different. Open up another Exodus account, which gives you another private key. Okay, advertising. The whole social media advertising mess is about to get messier. Platforms will discover blockchains to prevent duplication and fix other problems. And this might mean that YouTube will stop re-uploaders, which takes up a staggering amount of space. I think this could be a real resolution to certainly a beginning of a resolution to a lot of YouTube's problems with space and cleaning up loose ends. Some kind of blockchain technology could be used to ensure that duplication is not taking place, and that would be actually a boon to all of us. Okay, and one of the ways actually YouTube could get around some of its advertiser problems very, very simply is on the front of the terms of usage, terms of service, you put a huge disclaimer and you say you use YouTube at your own risk. What you see here has got nothing to do with YouTube. We can't be blamed. It is the public that has a responsibility to monitor itself, and so open YouTube at your own risk. And there you go. YouTube, you solved all of your problems. Wouldn't that be just great? So there will be a dissension from within over censorship in in social media, and there will be a massive blowback from the public and also from their own employees, who will start whistleblowing, even though it might result in termination of their career or even possibly a death. Okay, so this we're going to be looking at some serious censorship where the boss class is asking the workers to really transgress a moral core belief. Okay, so watch out for that. There's going to be a big upset in social media. Okay, there will also be a big blowback from advertisers who hear leaked information that they are being ripped off by the media algorithms. Okay, so there's going to be a lot of things falling on social media all at the same time, and there will be a breaking down of the government narrative, which will become more than a game or a mystery. In other words, the fact that government is not functioning very well is going to have a real effect in people's lives, and this will cause a reaction within society. Okay, so we move on to boxcard mining, and the word is regulation, in the sense that governments will be prepared to trade electricity, surplus electricity, for a particular cryptocurrency to help fill empty coffers. Now, I don't know about other states or provinces, but I know here in Ontario, we actually give a lot of hydro to the United States of America at a greatly reduced cost, or absolutely free, because once it's produced, it has to go somewhere. Okay, so if you could use that to mine cryptocurrencies that were going to create in value, then that would be of importance to governments' coffers that have been emptying of late, with the expense of all of the government management systems that it has to maintain, and a collapse of infrastructure all over, certainly Ontario. We're seeing infrastructure come to an end at the same time. Earth mining. New growth sets as cryptos enter the mining world, with several new coin issuances this year to finance ventures. Also, blockchain technology will remove much of the fraud and manipulation of metals, and it's not a good time to be a bank. And this will be talking about the CME that has 250 paper ounces to every 1 ounce of real silver. Now, each of those notes is a promissory note guaranteeing the owner that in exchange for the money they paid, they will get 1 ounce of real silver. But yet they know they only have 1 ounce per 250 purchases. Now, if you and I were to engage in this kind of behavior, you know what they'd call it? They call it fraud. Well, the blockchain is going to end that, and it's going to be a boon for miners, and it means that metals will start going towards their real cost valuation, which means they'll be going up in value because they've been manipulated down for so long. Now, whether they'll take place of cryptocurrencies, it's hard to say, but they could be used, and this is my personal opinion, they could be used as a supporter of cryptocurrencies, just as it was supposed to be to underwrite the loans and guarantees from the Federal Reserve. Okay, you couldn't have more debt outstanding than you had gold in reserve. So maybe that will be the use of it, but in any case, it will be a good time for miners and metals and owners of gold and silver, and a bad time for banks and manipulators. Blockchain and cryptos will be bursting into the area of payroll, and data suggests that a defining rung in the ladder will be made by this transfer into payment and payroll systems. And as tests in the springtime go very, very well, it seems that the acceptance of blockchain and cryptos into the payroll world worldwide will be coming into view, and it will accelerate some companies into absolute prominence, in fact almost world domination in the handling of payroll and payment. Legacy corporations will try and buy it all up, and lawsuits will call the behavior predatory at best and criminal at worst. So there will be some pushback from legacy corporations who at the present time are controlling the situation and have gotten very, very rich doing so. So the pushback will be quite strenuous. There's absolutely no doubt of that. Okay, so let's get into the coins and tokens. Now, I am not going to go through all of them, as I said. I'm only going to do Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Litecoin. But I will list the coins that are going to be covered in this report, and that's why I urge you to purchase it. If you have any interest in the crypto space, you will find it well worth the investment to purchase this little report. Okay, so Bitcoin will start to climb through the year, testing $38,008. First seen in April and progressing throughout July. And it just loves those number 8s. And in there, in that progression to 38,008, the number 28,008 comes up, and it's not really certain right now whether that means that it will pause at that number or whether it will reach $38,008 and it will drop back to 28,008 and then go back up again. Is not certain. But other numbers that show up are $64,000 and $100,000. And conjunct with this, there will be a disarray in fiat world, and even the mainstream media will have to admit that they have runaway inflation on their hands. A disruption in April. The 38,008 number is a temporal marker for the revolution within the banking system. Okay, so then it goes on to Bitcoin Cash, Cardano, Dash, Digibyte, EOS, Ethereum, growth areas as well as new competition into December, developing a new business class, a bot-to-bot system for smart contracts, and a winning streak for Ethereum from March onward with new business models and new businesses. But there will be competition coming to this. EOS and OmiceGo are doing very much the same, and Litecoin, of course, as you'll see in a moment, will be on a par with Ethereum coming up in this year. So Litecoin will continue to grow until it reaches parity with Ethereum, but not in pricing, but with the smart contract hosting and distributing area. There will be videos made of people, how people got rich of Litecoin, and numerous millionaires will be made from Litecoin and the increases in the currency. So that gives you some kind of idea of where Litecoin will be going over the next 6 to 8 months. So I'm pretty excited about that. Okay, then it goes on to Monero, OmiceGo, or OMG, Populous, Ripple, and Veritasium. Okay, so sovereign tokens. Sovereign tokens are these tokens brought in by different governments around the world, and they will try to control crypto space by regulation and creation. Government interest will drive public interest, so their interest is going to generate a lot more interest from the general public. And of course the regulation does not work because I was watching a video the other day with Clif, and he was talking about taxation, and how do you tax cryptocurrency when you haven't touched it for, say, for example, if you get some Litecoin in payment for something and you don't convert that Litecoin into cash, into hard currency, have you actually received it? And these are interesting questions. Okay, sovereign tokens will try to control all of this, and they will also trying to bring into creation some of their own coins, but there will be an accounting hiccup. Okay, and this will, because of the auditing and the accounting failures, it will cause a loss of public confidence, and the government will then use the words out of control to describe crypto space. And this also will be a temporal marker that when you hear the government using the word out of control, you will know that we are on track with this report. Okay, so we move on into a debt space, and there are signs of contraction or curtailing, and I made a video about this recently where interbank lending had fallen off a cliff, which was a precursor to the 2007-2008 meltdown. Okay, so I think we are in for a rocky year as far as the fiat debt-based currency system is concerned, and Clif says so here. And although there will be initially signs of growth, this will just be a precursor that the debt space will go into contraction, and banks will stop lending to each other, and you will see all kinds of hell break loose. It will open up all kinds of weaknesses within the central banking system. Okay, so the narrative has changed. Okay, false flags, etc., are not working anymore, and it's really important to control the narrative. This is part of the conclusion that Clif wrote. Okay, so we have culture percolates from the core values of a society, and this is an important thing to recognize. And in the last few decades, they try to control culture by using algorithms. Prior to that, they basically controlled the whole media system, whether it was newspapers or the television. It was controlled by a very narrow group of people. Well, since the advent of the internet, that has really broadened out, and so the narrative or the story has become very, 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 very compromised and diffused. So they've turned over to algorithm to try and change culture. And this is done by, we saw with Facebook recently, they ran an experiment where they only posted upbeat postings to people's profiles, and then they did negative, and they watched the response in the comment area. So they can change the narrative by deciding what you receive and what you don't receive in the way of information on your homepage. And now Clif points out here that AI, and I think I also agree that AI's biggest danger to humanity is the taking over of soft chores, like banking, tellers, insurance reps, in the lawyering and accounting field. That's where you're going to see the most effects taking place. But AI itself cannot think. You will never program it to think. You will only be able to program it within the parameters of the person who is programming the computer or building the program. And into that come internal biases that the programmer has. Okay, so the computer can reduce that into finer and finer details, but it can't think outside of the box of that programming and come up with a whole new idea based on what it has in the program, the data that it already has within itself. And so AI will never take over the world. It would never think for itself. And this is the problem, because the boss's class, using the algorithm, have not realized that for example, now overnight you could wake up the following morning, as we have done on some of these platforms like YouTube and Facebook, where freedom of speech has now been wiped out from the lexicon. And of course you can imagine all the algorithms are they end up suiting the boss class. And so when you shut off this thing, you've broken one of the core values of the culture of society, and people are starting to wake up, and you're seeing that. I said for a long time, because it didn't look like people were waking up, but I thought that this would be an exponential curve, and that's what exponentials look like. They bump along the bottom for an awful long time, and then they suddenly shoot up in that hockey stick as you get that doubling really starts to take effect. So it's not really till the very end game. And this is obviously why civilizations collapse, and why nobody noticed all of this build-up, is because it happened organically. It happened person to person, one by one, and that takes a long time to build out. And then finally you get this explosive reaction, and that's why you're seeing these nationalist, populist governments being voted in, over globalism, because globalism has taken away freedom of speech, one of the core values of society, and we're all starting to recognize that now. And so don't be afraid of AI taking over the world. And I think the elites have lost the whole game, because this is now, it's out of their hands, it's being taken over, and the public are now aware of what is going on. The bank robbers are in the bank. The cat is out of the bag, to mix metaphors there, and we're realizing what's going on. And the public is cannier than you might think, through the use of videos like this, sharing the reports that Clif High puts out, all this kind of stuff. This is the way we network our way to success and remove that in our society that is not working. Okay, well, I hope you enjoyed that report summary, and please, if you did, like and subscribe below, and we will talk to you very, very soon. See ya. Bye now.